And then 13 is a profile driver. So that describes the interaction with the profile drive. Console is for a monitor output, RS-232. That is a serial port, like we have it on the Apple II with a special card. In the Apple III, it's built in. Then an audio driver, and I mentioned it in the hardware section. This is not a beeper like the Apple II. This is the first time when Apple went forward and made something which can really generate sound. Then graphics, that is a driver which also drives the monitor, shows the capabilities or enables the capabilities of doing high resolution graphics. High resolution is not 4K. High resolution is much smaller, but it was higher resolution in 1980. And then my silent type thermal printer. I could have also put in here a normal printer driver for matrix printer, but that would be a different driver. I want to show you how driver files are looking here. So we have read the driver file. We could delete drivers, which I don't want to do right now, or I could do edit driver parameters. So I go with a profile drive, and so I have a device name and it's called profile. I have the capabilities to change it to whatever I want. I can call it Bill, Sue and Annie if I want. That is the freedom I have as a user. The driver status is active. I can change it to not active, and then I get this star. It is still there, but it's not used, and it frees some memory. And then slot number. I have my profile drive card in slot number 1. Apple recommended back in the days to put it in slot number 4. This is a comment. I think you can change it. I never tried it. Let's try to do it. Yeah, you can change the comment section, but not much use for it. The device type, that is defined, right? This is a D1, that means it's a block device. You can read and write to it. You have a formatter, and it's non-removable, like a disk, for example, right? You can pull out a floppy disk out of the disk drive. You can't do this really with a profile drive. Maybe if you would have a Winchester drive. If you don't know what a Winchester drive is, Google it. It was at one time very, very popular. So all these other things are internal data stuff. So you know block count. It has 9,728 blocks. Of course, the version ID, what is the driver? So what is important on this stuff? If you compare this to an Apple II, you had nothing like this. You plugged in your disk controller card, you plugged in your disks, and the DOS operating system did only need 1 or 2 input blocks, and that was which slot, which drive. So that was slot 6, drive 1, right? Here you can change a lot of things and make it tailored to your system. And the next thing is all the software which is written doesn't have to know where your disk drive sits, because your driver already knows, okay, it sits in slot number 1. Whenever I'm asking to get me something from the profile drive, the software does not specify where the profile drive is. It just say, hey, profile drive, give me information. And the driver, that means the source system, knows where the profile drive is to find in slot number 1. But I hope you get the idea behind it. The source knows how your system is set up, and your software only says, hey, I need a printer, I need to go to the monitor, I need to save my files to a profile drive or to a disk drive, and the source takes care about it. And this idea is also incorporated into the memory management. When you are writing software for the Apple III, you don't really have to worry about where your software is in the memory, because source will do the job for you. And that is when we are talking about the bank switching. An 8-bit processor like the 6502 can only address 64 kilobytes. And that means 64 kilobytes, it has to address the RAM and the ROM. And the ROM, for if you're not used to this naming convention, RAM is, you can write data to RAM. That's where your program is sitting. The ROM is something where programs are already in there, and even if you turn off your computer, they're still there. ROMs are important because they, for example, the Apple II, the AppleSoft Basic or the Integer Basic, that was in ROM. You could turn on your Apple II, and then AppleSoft Basic or Integer Basic was available. That is in ROM. So you have parts where you can write to, you have parts you can't write to, and you as a software programmer have to know, okay, I can't write in this section because that's a ROM section, and well, I can't write to ROM because there is already something. Or in the RAM, oh, my DOS operating system is there, I can't write in this memory location, I have to write it to some memory location which is free. On the Apple III, you don't worry about those things. On the Apple III, the source is juggling around the memory because it has access to more memory than the processor can in reality address. I mean, there is still the barrier, it can only address 64 kilobytes, but what the bank switching, in a very simple way to explain it, does is it has, let's say you have folders, and every folder is some memory. You have 3, 4, 5 folders available, but your processor is actually only capable to read one folder. But the operating system says, okay, now you read from folder 1, and if you want this other data, then read in folder 2. So the processor only reads one folder at a time, but the operating system tells him where to read it from. And then that's this bank switching. Bank switching is something not really new. Actually, the Apple II had also bank switching on the language card to a much smaller degree. But theoretically, yeah, they could build larger language cards. And I read that they did this when they did work on the Lisa. The programmers had Apple IIs to program for the Lisa and demanded more memory. So they modified language cards of the Apple II so that they could actually access up to one I think it was 1 megabyte. So they had much more room to program. That was also bank switching. The Apple III had bank switching already built in. That's why they delivered it with 128 kilobytes. You can easily, well, back in 1980s, just open your wallet and buy the expensive memory, but you could plug it in and then have 256 kilobytes. And as I said before, there were also memory cards which you could get the Apple II to 512 kilobytes, if I'm not mistaken. Up to 1 megabyte was possible. I have never seen a 1 megabyte card for the Apple III, but theoretically, yes, you could go even there. But again, 1980, 1 MB of RAM. That was so large, nobody could imagine. Think about the famous quote of Bill Gates, who said, nobody needs 256 kilobytes of RAM. I don't think that he will stand to this quote nowadays. But back then, that was a huge amount of memory. Now I'm back in the System Utilities configuration program. But there's another special thing which at that time only the Apple III had, and that is you could change some system parameters. So yeah, so you can tell the source how many disk drives are connected. I have physically connected 3 drives on my Apple. Maximum is 4. But without even disconnecting one drive, I could type in here 1 or 2, and the system would then only see 1 or 2 drives. Why would you do this? Well, even if the Apple III has a lot of memory, sometimes, and especially if you have a lot of drivers, you run out of memory allocated for the operating system. So the trick is I disable in software 1 or 2 drives and have more room to add another driver. For example, if I want to have, instead of my 3 disk drives, 4 or 5 of my compact flash drives, then I disconnect by software the disk drives and add a hard drive. So here's an example of something which was really special on the Apple III. That's a standard character set. In the hardware demonstration at the very end, I showed you this horses demo, and I mentioned that Andy Hertzfeld was just trying to demonstrate what the character sets can do. Actually, it came out like a great graphics and speed demonstration of Apple III. But actually, this is something which is very special to the Apple III at that time. You can change the characters. Like here I have standard, and you can see the character STANDRD. This is our standard character set, and I will give you a little demonstration because there's a very nice demonstration software for it. You can change it to pretty much whatever you want. You can make your own character sets. You can make very fancy space character sets. You can do Mickey Mouse character sets and so on. This was something done in software. When you compare this to the Apple II, you had to change hardware. The fonts of the characters were set in a ROM, and back in the days for the Apple II, you could you can buy different ROM chips to put in and then change your fonts. Here it's purely software, and that was also a step forward. Nowadays we know you can download font sets for your PC or Macs and change it to whatever liking you want. That was the first step, and I think that's also something where Apple did a step forward. I don't say they invented this, but it was for sure the first implementation in a PC environment. And of course, they built the first business computer. They were the first in everything on that.